Hi, this is Brass Check, and I'm recording this 8:27 a.m. on Wednesday, July 17th. It's already hot as hell here. I can't imagine how miserable it's going to get before the end of the day. I swore that I was not going to talk anymore about this topic. I'd leave it to others because I'm right in the middle of finishing the book. The book is JFK and RFK's Battle Against Zionist Extremism. And I hope you'll support that book. It is unbelievable. If you like anything that I've ever done in the last, since 1980, 97, this may be the best thing ever. And here's the weird coincidence. The final chapter in which I explain the mechanisms by which Robert Kennedy Sr., the father, was assassinated, who planned it, why they did it the way they did it, how they got away with it, how they continue to get away with it is explained, I think, better than anybody else has ever done. And I know there are a lot of great scholars out there and a lot of great researchers, and they put tremendous effort into it. And really, all I did was synthesize stuff out there. But I brought in some other bodies of knowledge that, for whatever reason, have never made it to the assassination research community. And when you put the whole picture together, it's crystal clear who did it and how they did it. And it's going to be revealed in the book. Now, by amazing coincidence, this also helps explain what just happened last weekend. So I want to run through the different scenarios. Number one, this happened exactly the way they said. A frail 20-year-old kid with no combat training of any kind, who couldn't shoot straight, who seemed like a good citizen. He was holding down a job. He didn't seem to have any weird affiliations or say weird things or post weird things. He crawled on a roof, hung out there for 30 minutes in full view of the Secret Service, and took his shots. That's the official narrative. Okay. What are some possible alternatives here? And just possible. Number one, this was a classic diversion. Um, I'll talk about how you would put a kid on a roof to be sacrificed in a second. But the real shooter was either in the water tower, or there was a facility about 400 yards, also straight line to the Trump stage, which conveniently was closed on that day. What a coincidence. So it's possible that that's where the killing shot, or the attempted killing shot actually came from. So classic, you get a patsy, you make a big deal about him, right? Lee Harvey Oswald did it, Um, uh, they meant to kill Lee Harvey Oswald that day. They screwed up, which is why Jack Ruby, who probably was supposed to make sure he was killed, had to go and personally do it. Um, and then I think they wanted to kill Sirhan, but believe it or not, this is a little known tale. There was a very prominent Democratic California position named Jesse Unruh, I think that's his name. People that are a little more up on the history of California politics will know who that is. He went in the squad car, or the ambulance. He was in the hospital the whole time, and he kept saying, "I don't want another Oswald. I don't want another Oswald. I don't want another Oswald." Maybe that saved Sirhan's life, because the proper way to do this is kill the patsy on the spot. Now, when Joseph Colombo, if people are old enough to remember, he was killed, gunned down, assassinated at a Columbus Day rally at Columbus Square. And the guy that supposedly did it was an African American who had no motivation for anything, but somebody had hired him because it's a long story, and actually it's in the new upcoming book. But somebody this guy he did have organized crime affiliations, and somebody hired him to go and quote shoot Colombo, i.e., with film. And the guy showed up with a film camera. Now, can you hold a film camera and then also with one hand pull a gun out and get past some pretty serious mob bodyguards and shoot somebody? No, you cannot. But that's the story that was told. And of course, the mob guys don't fool around. That guy was dead on his, boom, gone. So and that's the model, right? You got the patsy. The patsy's supposed to be killed on the spot. Okay, so it either happened the way CNN and all the other idiots say it happened, Or this was a very simple operation. You put a patsy on the roof in broad daylight. You have the real shooter somewhere else, and you make sure that that patsy doesn't live to tell any tales. Now, some interesting things. Um, we've not seen the rifle. You know how cops like to bring there's the rifle. We found it. It's a, and the anti-gun people. This is a disgrace that these weapons should be. No, we haven't seen this thing. We don't know what that kid was carrying. Did he even have a rifle, or did he have something else that wasn't a rifle? Did it have a scope on it? They keep saying, well, it was a run-of-the-mill, um, uh, you know, assault rifle. Which, by the way, all assault rifle means is it's a military rifle. Believe me, you can do unbelievable damage with a plain vanilla hunting rifle. But in any event, we haven't seen that weapon. There is a photo of him with something that looks like a rifle, but in the world of AI, who knows? But in any event, scenario one, it happened the way they said. Scenario two, they put this kid on the roof, made sure everybody saw him, made sure it was a big deal, and then after the shots were fired, killed him. End of story. Right? There's nothing else to consider. But more likely, I'm thinking more likely this kid was a patsy. Now, how would you get a patsy up on the roof? Well, this kid was lonely. He wanted to be important. He did know how to hold a gun. Um, he was somehow in the inner circle because when BlackRock came to town and they picked 6 kids from his high school, they picked him to be in the commercial. So he was on the radar of people. And they might have told him, hey, we want to deputize you as a junior security guy, and we want you up on the roof. And, who knows what story they could have told him. But one thing we know for sure, they left that kid alone until the shots rang out. Now, why was he up there so long? Nobody's asked you this. Nobody's answered or even asked this question. Did the Trump rally start on time? If it started a little late, they had to just keep him up there because they needed the patsy to be there when the real shots rang out. That's why he was up there so long. And they're going to talk about in a second why nobody took him down. Nobody took him down because he may have been, and there may be communication about this. They may have put him up there to be like a junior scout. I don't know. It's just a thought. Because you realize that the building that he was on top of was the command center for the local sniper team. Just unbelievable. Unbelievable. So you get the kid on the roof. You leave him there as long as you need to because you can't shoot Trump until he's on the stage. You have to wait till he's on the stage. All right. So as with the Kennedy assassination, now Kennedy had full-blown secret service security, right? Robert Kennedy didn't. He didn't even have a rent-a-cop, or he did. I think he had a rent-a-cop. The LAPD, by the way, check it out. They didn't even bother to show up to provide security for the event. There's a recording of the 9/11 call to LAPD, and first they literally, you got to hear this call. They couldn't care less, and then they were like, okay, we'll send somebody over. This is after Robert Kennedy was shot, right? But anyway, John Kennedy had full-blown secret service security, but obviously it was absolute crap. Were they watching Windows? No. Were they watching the grassy knoll? No. Did they slow the car down right at the right moment, right before the shot rang out? Yes. Et cetera, et cetera. Did they surround the car while he was going down the road? No, they backed up and made him the clearest shot in the world. So how do you accomplish that? And this would answer how you accomplish that in Pennsylvania. You make sure you have an idiot running the Secret Service. Okay, mission accomplished. And idiots are idiots, and they don't do their jobs, and they can be easily manipulated, and they can be easily infiltrated. So my guess is there's a group of people on the inside of the Secret Service that absolutely made this possible. And they made it possible in the slickest way you can imagine. Do you know how they did it? When they drew the security perimeter they were responsible for, they deliberately left out the place where the shooter and or the patsy was. Here's the picture. I mean, this was their plan, and they left it up to the Keystone Cops and the Mayberry RFD guys. Uh, that's how you do it. That's it. There's nothing else. I mean, it's not a complex. It's not a complex operation. You just carve out. So whoever ran the preliminary research, they had a ringer. This is the second version, right? So the first version, it happened exactly the way they said. The kid had no motivation. He had no skill. We haven't seen the gun, but it happened the way they said it. The other variation is they did it. And the way they did it before, and the way they would do it again, is make sure whoever was charged with doing the pre-planning, the planning for the setup of security, accidentally made a little mistake, and they made a doozy of a mistake. And so once you do that, well, now the sniper's nest is free. You had to do the same thing with Oswald, right? All those windows should have been locked. Everybody should have been driven out of that building prior to the motorcade coming by. And all the buildings. That's what they do. They didn't do it that day. Okay. And of course, they didn't check the grassy knoll, which was where the shot, and probably the shots came from other directions too. But that's how you do it. You have idiots running this Secret Service, and you put an idiot in charge of the pre-planning. And he may not even be corrupt, because he's getting his advice from somebody else because he's an idiot too. You see how that works? It was very simple to do this. Okay, very simple to do this. Whether it was the kid that did it or the kid was the patsy and there were shooters elsewhere, it was very simple to do this. I don't know why all the professionals are confused about how this happened. It happened at the stage of the pre-planning. And they're all bureaucrats. They're all clock punchers. And they're all, order followers. And so you go there and you go there and you go there. They just do it. If the fundamental plan is crap, they won't know it. They won't realize it. They won't adapt. Everyone just goes to where they're supposed to go, punches the clock, cashes their paycheck, and people end up getting shot. That's how it works. That's how they did it, either if it was just as presented or if it was a patsy with real shooter setup. Now, there's another potential here, and I have to bring it up, and because it answers a few questions.
If you're the President of the United States, they will move it 6 inches to make it sure it lines up with the door. They were following standard security procedure when he got there. The limousine stopped, the door opened. The Secret Service got out on both sides and formed a human wall. And then Reagan gets out and walks through that wall a couple of seconds into the door of the VIP entrance and through some non-public halls and up an elevator and out on the stage. It comes back by the same route in order to beat the crowd out. This was specifically designed there at the Hilton for that purpose, this route. But when he comes out, the limousine inexplicably is about 40 feet down the curb, nowhere near the door, so he has to walk out into the open. When the president walks in the open, the Secret Service are supposed to stand on either side and to the front and back, as well as other points, but at least a protective diamond. The Secret Service file out all to his right, a line of ducks. They told him that morning, "No security problem, Mr. President, you needn't wear your vest." He raised his hand to wave. Someone called Mr. President, raised his hand to wave, and at that point he's hit. You can tell he's hit. In the Kennedy assassination, because the missile went into his lung, the lung begins to collapse, the air is blown out, and the cheeks expand. And you get a grimace on the face. His shoulder slumps a little bit. He's clearly in pain. And all of the magazines, Time magazine, you go back to that point, show Reagan is hit. He's up like this. But that point is at almost the same second that Hinckley's first bullet is fired and hits Brady in the head. And realizing that Reagan is not dead, Secret Service Agent Parr begins to push him into the car in front of him, and Reagan's already in the car, and Parr about a third of the way into the car when Hinckley's last shot is fired. So there's no chance in timing or angles or anything else for these bullets to hit Reagan. The reaction of all the other people is much different than Reagan. Reagan's still standing, and then he gets into the car. So they're all lying around the ground from these 38 shots. If a 38 caliber, even a 22 caliber bullet had hit Reagan, he wouldn't have been wondering whether something had happened to him. A good assassin, even if you have your vest on, knows that when you raise your hand, you expose your heart. Oh. And the situation was that up top of the retaining wall on the area that I call the bushy knoll, was the assassin. And he was firing not a 38 or a 22, but a very, very specific weapon developed by the intelligence agencies, which is a CO2 propelled flechette. These are little razor-edged or sharp discs, or they have them, earlier versions were like little tube rockets, about a ½ an inch long, very thin with stabilizing fins. Then they got into these little discs that are razor-edged and delta-shaped or airline-shaped, so that they, and this thing makes no noise. It's just a little puff of CO2 gas, and it can be fired with accuracy up to an amazing distance. Some of the guns that incorporated this early technology were revealed by Senator Church during the CIA assassination studies in Congress, and they had looked like a German Luger with a rifle scope on it that would fire these things accurately with the scope to the length of a football field.
Did you get that? Now, isn't it interesting? Everybody talks about this is the first time a president's been shot at since Reagan, and nobody gets into the details of the Reagan shooting. Jim Judge did. Brass Check's been promoting this material since 1997. All right, what did Judge say? He said, oh, there was a security lapse, inexplicable security lapse on the part of the Secret Service. And just to recap, you know, if you're dropping somebody off at the door, you drive up to the door. And if it's the president, as Judge mentioned, you make it perfect. And then you do a corridor on both sides. They did that when they dropped him off. When they picked him up, they were, what do you say, 40 feet from the door? I mean, that's insane. 10 feet's insane. 5 feet's insane. And they only protected him on one side. They left him wide open to the shooter, who was, I forget his name now, Hinckley. Judge points out that no bullet hit Reagan. All the bullets are accounted for. But something did hit Reagan. What was it? He explained what the technology is. Little razor disc can be fired accurately up from 100 yards away. Now, is there a picture of somebody with one of these pistols with that specific weapon? No. Do you think, just checking here, that you could build a firing device inside of a camera that fires one of those things? I think with enough millions of dollars, you could do it. So here's the third scenario, and it's a scenario. I'm not saying this is what happened, but I'm just looking at the logic of it. Number one, for all three scenarios, we know the Secret Service screwed this up beyond belief. We know the mistake occurred in the planning. So it really just, whoever was supervising that plan, they needed one bad guy. And you needed a bunch of idiots like the person that runs the Secret Service. But you needed one bad guy to plan that out so that the shooting nest of the shooter, the assassin, was open. So that's how they did that part. And I don't know, will they ever get to who that person is? Because it was one person. There was a supervisor. He or she or they signed off on it. Will we ever know that person's name? By the way, sidebar, just in case I forget, we'll know this is fake real when we start hearing about suicides among the Secret Service and among the local police. Haven't seen one yet, but the clock's ticking away on that one. We shall see. All right, so however this was done, it all started in that preliminary plan. I can't stress this enough because nobody else is talking about. They're talking about the fact that there was a mistake made. The mistake made was the person that did the preliminary planning, the person that signed off on it. So if it happened the way they said, that applies. If it was a second shooter and that kid was a patsy, which seems absolutely the most likely, I'm sorry to project without hard evidence, but it seems the most absolutely obvious scenario. He had no motivation whatsoever. He'd never been violent. He'd never said a violent thing. He had no interest in politics. You know, we're back to Sirhan again. He was a pure American dude. You know, he had no interest in politics. He was interested in hypnosis and mind control. By the way, we need to see if this kid was interested in self-improvement, hypnosis, and all that kind of stuff. But this kid had no motivation, no skill. And they made a big deal about making sure we knew it was him. So the second scenario is that he was the patsy. The third scenario is he was the patsy. And the Secret Service the planners didn't plan. They made a mistake on purpose. But the third scenario is there was somebody with a camera and one of these weapons that Judge describes so well, the one they used on Reagan. And this fellow, you know, if it's accurate from 100 yards, it's accurate from 5 yards. This guy shot Trump's ear. Because, you know, you see the picture? I don't know if we can find it. There's a picture and it shows the bullet, right? They captured the bullet. Problem with that, the shooter was up here. The bullet should have been going that way. I mean, maybe not that extreme of an angle, but it wouldn't have been going perfectly parallel. Has anybody mentioned that to you in all the stuff you've seen? It's so freaking obvious. This is why I have to do these videos while I'm in the middle of writing my book. Pisses me off. I'd like to just sit back and watch YouTube and get intelligent commentary. So that picture's a fraud. Right. So somebody with a camera, because how many people were sitting around with cameras? Lots of people. Lots of people. Could you embed a gun, one of those weapons in a camera? Oh man, yes, you could. So it may be, and I'm going to point some things out to you, that Trump doesn't even know what happened. I mean, again, this is a scenario that fits the facts. I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm saying this clearly could happen. He got shot in the ear. He brushed it off like it was like a bite, right? There's a huge difference between being shot and being bit by an insect. He went up as if it was a bite. He went down on the ground intelligently. Thought he was shot. I would think I was shot too. If I heard gunshots and I felt a sting in my ear, and then there was blood on my ear, and the blood on the ear, that's a whole nother story. But he may actually believe he was shot. Why would he know any different? So off they take him to the hospital. They go through their little monkey dance. They bandage it. Now here's one of the things that put this in my mind. Did you see him coming out on the stadium floor at the convention? I didn't watch much of it. I just watched a little bit. He looks unhappy. He looks disturbed. Now you say, well, he just got shot. Yeah, but you know, when he thought he was shot, he came out roaring. This was his chance to come out like, you know, like a conquering hero. He didn't. He slunk out. He looked unhappy. He looked like something was on his mind. He's a smart guy. If this third scenario is how it happened, he has probably figured out that he was not shot. This is if the third scenario is true. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just showing you a path of reality that fits all the facts. Remember that when the astronauts came back from the moon and they looked really depressed and really pissed off. That was weird too, wasn't it? Shouldn't they have been high-fiving and jovial and like they just won the Super Bowl, the World Series, the Stanley Cup, and the Boston Marathon, and they looked real downcast. Trump looked really downcast for a prolonged period. He gradually warmed up as all the patting on the back and the cheering and everybody praising him. He started to warm up, but it was a long, slow process. That doesn't make psychological sense. He should have come out like Rocky. Why didn't he? If this third scenario is true, he probably knows that something really shady happened. Now, here's the question. So now we got a branch. Did that special, if again, I'm not saying this is how it happened. I'm just saying this is a plot. It fits all the facts. Now we got a little branch. If the purpose was to make him a martyr hero, not a martyr, but a hero, then you would have shot him and nailed his ear. I mean, you guys, you have to understand this. Camera, like it's like a telescope or a scope on a rifle, right? Your button. I mean, you know, it's the same as this, except they can build a camera. And when I say they, we all know who I'm talking about. And it does the same thing. And you have the same level of accuracy as if you had a rifle with a scope. Okay. So maybe the intention was to nick him and create a drama to destabilize us. So we're running around chasing our tails, trying to figure out what happened. And also to really put the nail in Biden, because they've obviously given up on Biden. I mean, the moronic coterie that's around him, they would rather that clown show would rather go down with the ship than save the ship, because their ideology is so insane. Okay, but it's clear that the powers that be are happy with that. They're happy with him being now humiliated and pointed out to be a complete incompetent. They're happy with that. But if you wanted to put even more energy behind Trump for reasons that I'm going to explain in a second, you would have this staged assassination attempt, right? Again, this is scenario, I'm not saying this is how it happened, but it fits all the facts and it fits function and it fits the capabilities that these people have. All right. So now you just want to nick him because you want him to be president. Now, why would the powers that be that appear to be fighting Trump so hard want him to be president? Trump, I think, you know, even a broken clock is right twice a day. Trump has a lot of good things that he's trying to do. Okay, that's a fact. He's desperately wrong about certain important things like Israel. But even there, he's sort of talking as if he's talking, they got to finish it. They got to finish it. And what does he mean about finishing it in Gaza? Does he mean, you know, A-bombing it? No. Does he mean killing more civilians? I doubt it. You know, for all his flaws, he's not into killing lots of people. He didn't do it when he was president. He killed select people, but he wasn't into killing massive quantities of people. Right. So I think when he says that you got to finish it, what he's really saying is you got to stop. You got to stop. You got to negotiate. You got to do a deal. So he may actually be good for Israel. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, good for the situation and good for stopping the murder of civilians by Israel. But in any event, the powers that be clearly want this guy to be president. Why? Because they can manipulate him and get him to do what they want to do. You know, they put one guy up and he does what they want him to do. You know, they put up George Bush Jr. and he does everything they want him to do. And then they put up Obama to counter him and he does everything they want him to do. And then we got to snap back and have Trump, and he basically did everything the powers that be wanted him to do. And then we snap back and we got Biden and he's going to fight Trumpism and he's going to do everything that Trump did times 10. I mean, you see how it goes? It's a Punch and Judy show. Coke, Pepsi, Coke, Pepsi, Coke, Pepsi, and they control everybody. And I guess they made the decision, hey, this is a controllable dude. Let's get behind him. So he won the minute that whatever that thing was that nicked his ear, he won the presidency. And so that's one scenario on this divergent path of this not being a real bullet. The other scenario is they actually wanted to hit him. They wanted this little thing, this razor sharp thing to go in, hit him. Sure, it was poisoned, right? And down he goes, and he's dead. And they'll say he died of a heart attack, or he died of shock, or
During the Cold War, the CIA invented a James Bond-like superweapon known as the heart attack gun, which could kill you without leaving a trace and make your death look like a garden variety myocardial infarction.
and it wouldn't be visible because it just go right in because they never found the thing that went into Reagan, right? Or they found it and removed it. All right, so seems complicated. It's not. Secret Service was used. Whoever did the planning and signed off on it under the idiot leadership of the Secret Service deliberately created that pie with the hole in it to allow a visible sniper to be up there. Either it happened the way they said, the kid took these shots. We'll never know. He's dead. He had no motive. He had no real means. He was there with a gun. Maybe we haven't seen the gun yet, have we? Don't they always bring these guns out? Don't they always hold these things up? But they're not going to do that. Even the anti-gun nuts, they should be going crazy. Here's the gun he used and he bought it. No, they ain't going to that at all. They're talking about the mysterious father. Are we ever going to see the father? That the mysterious father bought the mysterious gun from the mysterious gun store. Now, normally the news media would be hounding the gun seller. They'd be hounding the family. Nobody's hounding anybody, right? But in any event, so it either happened the way they said, or it was classic Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Malcolm X, Joe Colombo, Patsy doing something, and the real action's happening somewhere else. The Patsy gets the heat, and the real people disappear into the woodwork. That's the second scenario. The third scenario, and I don't think if it's the third scenario that Trump is involved in any way. I really don't. I think for all his obnoxious behavior, he's a decent man. He's a country club guy, just these guys are idiots. But at the end of the day, if you show them that they're doing something absolutely cruel and pointless, they will stop. So I think he's that kind of guy, and I don't think he's Machiavellian enough to be involved in some pantomime of a faked assassination. But I think he knows. And I tell you guys, look at him walking out onto the stage, or not on the stage, into the arena. That made no emotional sense whatsoever. That is completely counter to Trump. Completely. Here's a guy that when he thought he was shot, and I think he absolutely believes he was nicked, got up and said, hey, we're going to do it. We're going to win. We're going to, fight. I think that was entirely sincere. He looked frazzled, right? When they brought him off the ground, I mean, he didn't expect that. Something happened to him that he did not expect it, and he looked frazzled as hell. So I don't think he's in on it, but maybe somebody else was in on it. Somebody that here's the diversion path. Either they wanted to kill him with one of these razor weapons, shot from a camera, using all that shooting and all that confusion as a cover, or some super Machiavellian people they not only wanted him to win, they wanted him to win big. And why would you do that? Because if you control the guy, and I'm afraid he's controlled, they all are, you want him not only to win big, you want a whole bunch of people to be completely dedicated to him. And that episode cemented Trump's relationship with those people. And he also won the election with that event. So I'm going to guess you haven't heard these things anywhere else. They're based on just simple facts and simple history. Like all this stuff's been done before. And we know it's been done before. The Reagan thing, not a lot of people are aware of it. Brass check subscribers are. You've been aware of it since 1997. But that one's a little bit of a spin, but it's all based on facts. The actual weapon had been demonstrated in front of Congress, not related to the Reagan shooting, demonstrated, explained. We know these kinds of weapons exist. We know they work. We know they're accurate within 100 yards. And we know sure as hell somebody could build a camera that could shoot one. So if that's the case, again, it's a diversion path. I think I'm going to say Trump not only didn't know, but now he does have suspicions because he's not dumb. He's a really smart guy. And he may know that it didn't happen exactly the way, or he may have a nagging suspicion it didn't happen the way they told him it happened. But what's he going to do? Right? What's he going to do? He's not, at the end of the day, he doesn't have all that much steel in his spine. How do we know that? Because he folded for Fauci and the medical industrial complex and the medical dictatorship. He had enough native wit to know he was being conned. And for whatever reason, he let the con go on. And I think if this happens, if it's this third alternative thing, he is not going to be the one that's going to voice suspicions. So anyway, brass check. We're going to get back to the book. The book again is JFK and RFK's battle against Zionist extremists or extremism. I don't know. I got to figure out what I'm going to call it. But in by amazing coincidence, the last chapter, when you read it, you're going to understand how all these things happen, how John F. Kennedy was killed, how Robert F. Kennedy was killed, and how you could do what they did Saturday to Trump. All right. See you later, guys.
Brass Check TV, free to you, not free to us. We've got a server bill, we've got an email software bill, we've got a tech helper bill, and that happens every month. So to everybody that is supporting us financially, that's paying for their subscription in one way or another, we really appreciate it. If you're not, consider doing so. Everybody's got money for the newspaper and the cable bill and all that. Do you have money for media that's actually serving you? That's really the issue here. And when you help us, it allows us to get this information out to the world. So thanks to all our supporters, and if you're not a supporter already, please consider becoming one.